News and information 570 AM.
96.3 FM HD2. KLIF Dallas. KSCS FM HD2 Fort Worth. KLIF.com.
A Cumulus station.
Now, from the 5th floor Cumulus Studios in downtown Dallas, it's time for Inside Real Estate. Here's your host, Michael Kruizinga.
All right, good morning, folks. This is Mike Kruizinga. It's Inside Real Estate, and it is August 30th, Sunday. Welcome. Come on in. Stay a while. We're going to be talking all things real estate, life insurance, mortgage, title insurance. And we got a full house this morning. In-house today, we've got J.C. Harder from Goosehead Insurance Agency. We're going to be talking insurance coming up at 8:15. Rocky Martin himself, the big dog of Rocky Martin Supreme Lending Rockwall, is here in studio. So we're going to be talking to him, bottom half of the hour. And off the side of the highway, safe and sound from her trials and tribulations from a couple weeks ago, Brooke Owen is in studio with us from Millennium Title Insurance. So we've got a full house. We've got lots to talk about today. We're going to get into it here pretty shortly. Hope everybody had a great week. It was a great week for me, super busy. Lots of work this week. Had a little bit of fun, too. Was at Def Leppard and Styx concert last Friday, and had one heck of a time there. You know, you forget how much great music Styx has. One of my all-time favorite songs, Renegade. And, when they drop those acoustic lyrics, Hain Man, it just, everybody's got goose flesh on the back of their neck going, and just Def Leppard was great as always, but Styx, you just forget how much great music they had. What a great time, and was lucky enough to have a great date that night. And sometimes you go out to these things and you're with a stick in the mud, and thank goodness I wasn't that night. She was great. We had a great time. Was into the music, and it's kind of like me. You don't really care what anybody thinks. You just dance, party, have fun, and that's what those things are for. So I had a great time there. Got to hit the Rangers game with JC and his wife Patty this past week as well, and unfortunately they lost that one. Top of the ninth, I think, wasn't it? They tend to do that a lot. Even though they had a lead going in late, they lost it. But last night they actually kept a lead and won, so that was nice. Had a great week. So let's talk about what's going on. Let's do this day back in time real quick, and then we'll get going. Let's go back in time, folks. This day in history, okay, let's go back to 1987. Carl Lewis won gold in the 100-meter. That was his second world championship. Ben Johnson was DQ'd. We all remember that. And then let's go back to 2006. Greg Maddux won his 330th career game. And, you forget how great Greg Maddux was. He won the Cy Young Award 4 consecutive years, and with a 1.9 ERA. Only pitcher in MLB history to win at least 15 games for guess how many seasons straight. This is straight seasons. 17 seasons he had 15-game wins or more. Holds the record for most Gold Gloves, 18. Greg Maddux, he was something, no doubt. That was going back to 2006 on his 330th career game. One heck of a player, no doubt about that. So let's get to some real estate topics here real quick. We had a new listing pop up this week. 1209 Randolito in Arlington. This is kind of in between 360 and the George Bush Turnpike. This is was newer subdivision, kind of built out between 01 and 05. This house is an 02, a little over 1,900 square feet. It was a 4-bed, 2-bath, 2-car garage. Listing at $159,900. We are right in the process of getting brand new carpet installed. Carpet's going in on Tuesday, and we'll be ready for showings later this week. House across the street went multiple offers and over asking price. We expect similar with this property after we get everything done. There's some fresh paint. It's a really nice little property. So look for that on the website, which is, by the way, InsideRealEstateRadio.com, InsideRealEstateRadio.com. You can connect with us and all of our partners there, as always. If you want to call in during any of the segments, you can. 888-787-KLIF, 888-787-KLIF, 5543. So if you want to talk mortgage, title insurance, real estate, anything, Def Leppard, Sticks, why not call on in. Couple things I wanted to hopefully get to. I've got so much material, but we're not going to get to all of it as we do every week. How to prepare to get your house on the market. And, kind of like location. To me, it's clean. Clean your house. You don't have to go overboard. A lot of people say, well, do I need to take all the family photos off the walls, et cetera, et cetera? You don't have to go overboard. People know the house is lived in, that you're living there. But clean up. You'd be surprised some of the houses we walk into, and, some people live just a messy, dirty life, and, hey, that's your thing. That's your prerogative. That's great. But if you want to sell your house, you might want to show the best possible house that you have. And if your jacuzzi bathtub in the master bedroom is actually where you put all your dirty laundry, well, you might want to think about putting that dirty laundry in hampers or something. So clean. If you need to get a storage unit temporarily, well, then you know what? You need to do it. They're $50 a month? Go out and get a storage unit, put a bunch of stuff in storage, or at least get it out to the garage. It's nice to see the garage when we're showing the house, but it's not a huge selling point except for the guys. And as long as it's there, generally we're okay. So put everything away, get it cleaned up. A lot of people, they say they expect you to come in and say, okay, well, you need this, that, and the other. Well, it's a balance. You have to put in a minimal amount of money to get maximum back. And so it depends on your situation. Obviously an updated kitchen is a great thing, but, depending on your neighborhood, well, what's typical for your neighborhood? Does your neighborhood have super high-end appliances, super high-end granite? Maybe not. So we need to study your neighborhood and not give you any advice that's going to put you above where you need to be in your neighborhood, where you can't get that money back. Obviously, updated bathrooms is certainly nice as well, but needs to be consistent with your neighborhood. Paint. The cheapest thing you can do is paint. You can do that yourself. You can bring somebody in. Now, painters have gotten pretty expensive these days, but, you can go to Home Depot and do that yourself if you've got the time, or bring somebody in to do it. Paint's cheap, and it makes the biggest bang for your buck, if you will, as far as showing the house. Flooring is going to be next. So paint and flooring are going to probably be your top two. And like for this client that we just put their house on the market with the Randolito property, they were aware they needed carpet, and so we talked about it up front, and we were able to get them with one of our vendors who actually takes payment at closing. So instead of going out of pocket to get the flooring done, we were able to get them with one of our vendors to help them just take payment at closing. So we're getting that carpet installed this coming week. And with this particular vendor, the program that we have is we've got 45 days to get them under contract. And so long as we get that client under contract within 45 days, even if the closing date's another 30 days after that, this client does not have to come out of pocket to cover that flooring cost. And so that's a huge benefit. It's a huge benefit of working with us and our team and the vendors that we work with, because we've got these behind-the-scenes relationships with vendors where we can help our clients out and not have to come out of pocket to get show ready. So we're getting them some new flooring. we're buying them 45 days of market time, and even if it's closing another 30 days or so after that, as long as we get them under contract in 45 days. Now you're saying, okay, well, what happens if we don't get under contract in 45 days? No, this market and we're priced right, we should be fine, no problem. But you never know. They do a 6-month no interest financing. So if after that 45 days with this particular vendor, and every vendor is a little bit different, has a little bit different programs, but with these guys, you automatically go into a 6 months no interest. So still a pretty good deal right there. And that's just one of the vendors that we work with. So just some things to think about if you're getting ready to list. The big things are going to be paint and flooring. We'll talk about it when we come out and see your house, and then clean. Also, and this is simple, easy, and free, you need to talk to your neighbors. Got another listing, and unfortunately, the neighbor on one side is remodeling an old Ford pickup truck. And unfortunately, they decided to work on the engine and the undercarriage first. And so it looks kind of bad. It's kind of an eyesore in the neighbor's driveway. Talk to your neighbors. Let them know you're going to be selling the house, and that anything they can do to keep their property up. And the funny thing is this is, a nice neighborhood. These are $250,000 homes. But that old 77, 78 Ford is just sitting there in the driveway, and it's kind of hurting, the overall aesthetics of either side of the property. And, of course, on the other side of the property, the neighbor really ought to mow his lawn. So talk to your neighbors and see if they can help you out, because it's a benefit to them for you to get best dollar for your house so that their property values can stay up. And so when they sell, they can do well as well. So just a couple things to prepare for listing, folks. Hey, you know what? It's time for a break. We're going to come on back with JC from Goosehead Insurance. Folks, it's Inside Real Estate. We'll be back in a few.
The J.C. Harder Insurance Agency in Uptown Dallas has nearly unlimited resources when it comes to getting you the best insurance rates and policies for home, auto, and more. As part of the Goosehead Insurance brand, you, the consumer, have the power of choice through the J.C. Harder Insurance Agency Network. For a quote today on all your insurance needs, stop by J.C.'s office on McKinney Avenue in Uptown Dallas. Call 214-643-6108 or visit jcharderagency.com. That's 214-643-6108 or jcharderagency.com.
Sellers, how would you like your home sold guaranteed? Buyers, how would you like your bid guaranteed to win? Well, it's real simple. Call Mike Kruizinga with Chris Arnold Premier Realty and ask about their guarantee programs for both buyers and sellers. No one beats Mike's professional listing and marketing services for all price ranges, including luxuries and ranches. And few have the knowledge and patience to take first-time buyers from renting to home ownership in a tough market. Visit DFWMetroplexRealestate.com and mention you heard this on the radio. And listen to Mike Sundays, 8 a.m. on KLIF for Inside Real Estate.
Now back to Inside Real Estate. Here's Mike the Realtor.
Hey folks, welcome back. It's Inside Real Estate. This is Mike Kruizinga. Website is InsideRealEstateRadio.com, InsideRealEstateRadio.com. You want to call in 888-787-KLIF, 888-787-KLIF 5543. And we are going to rock on into our insurance segment, as we do every week. And we've got J.C. Harder in studio from the J.C. Harder Goosehead Insurance Agency. The website, jcharderagency.com, jcharderagency.com. Phone number where folks are always standing by over at his office, 214-643-6108 for all of your insurance needs. J.C., welcome back in this week.
Good morning, Mike. Thanks for having me.
So let's get into some insurance talk. Every week I learn something new when we talk, and it's fun and exciting for me, and I think also for the listeners out there that they pick something new up. So what do we got today?
All right, this morning we're going to focus on basically just the two broad forms of insurance policies, and we've dived into a couple of gotten pretty in-depth over a lot of things, but I want to take it back a little bit and just look at two different types of policies and just make sure, you are insured correctly, on your current properties or any new purchases that you're going through.
Okay, sounds good to me. Let's get it.
All right, so the two main forms is a replacement cost policy versus an actual cash value policy. Now, we'll go into the details of each one here in a minute, but each one is different as far as the structure itself, your contents or belongings inside the house, and then obviously roof coverage as well. All day, every day, you definitely want a replacement cost policy because that's going to eliminate any depreciation. That's the biggest difference between the replacement cost and an actual cash value. An actual cash value policy is always going to use market value at the time of the loss, and they're going to factor in depreciation.
Okay, and so that's definitely bad because that may not get you fully repaired and replaced.
Absolutely. Like, for instance, on your belongings inside the house, let's take a flat screen TV or a laptop that you spend a couple $1,000s on. If something happens, electrical surge, vandalism, theft, within 2 or 3 years, obviously that $2,000 electronic there is not going to be worth $2,000 anymore. Mm-hmm. And if you had an actual cash value, if you wanted to save a couple dollars a month on your premium, then they're going to basically replace that TV for you at a garage sale opposed to going to Best Buy and getting a true replacement.
Exactly. Well, and also, what if electronics, they're always high dollar when you first buy them, and then it goes down. So how does that play in?
Yeah, absolutely. That's, again, with the replacement cost, and always save your receipts on your big item purchases on things like that, because it is, the more information you have for that, the smoother a claim will go. But if you have the replacement cost peril, then they don't look at, when you bought it. They just, look at the same type of model, in today's standards.
Okay, great.
Another one, on the roof itself, especially with all the storms we get here in North Texas, some companies, if it exceeds, a 15-year-old roof, or if you're just trying to really, really penny pinch, you can actually take a lesser or an actual cash value on a roof. But again, that's something we never want to write that policy, honestly, for you, because you're going to be very upset at the time of a claim, because the amount of wear and tear that happens, month in, month out, year in, year out here in our area, you're going to lose a lot of value on that payout.
Sure. And that's basically, if folks did want to save a little bit, it's not going to pay off. It's just not. You're, in fact, when you need it, and I always say this, you don't need it until you need it. And then when you do need it and you don't have it or don't have the right kind, then you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot, right?
Absolutely. And a term we've been saying a lot each week is, spend hundreds of dollars throughout your year, divided by 12 in your escrow, and then save thousands of, when a claim happens.
Okay.
Let's talk about replacement costs just on the structure itself. And typically, of course, that's the only type of policy that you want to have, but I'm pretty sure that, most lenders require a replacement cost policy at the time at closing as well. I know some lenders, I have to write out, kind of some extra verbiage on the proof of insurance, if it does have an extended replacement cost, and, it has to cover that loan amount, and you want it to cover the structure itself as well, too.
Sure.
And again, we've talked about this value before, how if you're putting more money into the kitchens and baths, or if you're getting a really good deal on the property, congratulations on your price per square foot. If you get it at, under $80 a month, good for you. But in the insurance world and in today's constructions cost, you're wanting to ensure that, closer to about $100 a square foot.
Exactly, because we're talking about that. Again, it's replacement value, replacement cost, folks, and that changes day to day. It could be, the cost of wood, the cost of lumber at that time. The cost of lumber changes. And, if you had some sort of damage and we needed lumber, that's a huge cost right there. The cost of roofing materials, stays fairly consistent, but it does change. Labor costs do change. Everything changes on a daily basis, folks. So you want to be sure you're covered for the replacement value when the actual issue happens. And if something that did happen to you, then you want to make sure you're taken care of.
And most of these big companies as well, they have, typically a 3 to 5% inflation guard included on their policies. So instead of you having to call and increase that number as construction costs goes up, those are basically included in your policy as is for most of the big, standard guys there. And what that can do is, as far as a premium concern, some people say, well, my replacement cost has gone up too much. And, in 5 to 10 years, that's when it comes beneficial to use, Patty and I as a broker at Goosehead Insurance, because we only write replacement cost policies. But, if Travelers has gone up to and exceeded a high number there, but now Safeco is at a better replacement cost, you still have the same type of policy. It just might be a different value under a different rating system.
Exactly. And so that's the great thing to think about, folks, is, just because you have somebody already and maybe you've been with them for a while, you really need to reevaluate your insurance needs really at all levels, whether it's home, auto, or otherwise, on a regular basis in a regular interval, because things change. You could all of a sudden be paying way higher than you ought to be paying. And, we've talked about discounts in other segments before, but you give JC and Patty a call to see what they can do for you, because they can shop everywhere for you, and they're very rare in that, and they can get you the best rates all across the board.
Yeah, and what's very unique as well too, and just thank goodness I have so many options when it is for new homeowners or existing homeowners, but because I can quote the same house with 20 different home insurance carriers, and pretty much every single one of those is going to have a different replacement cost number. So it's really just knowing the ins and outs of the carriers, of the endorsements, and us being the consultant and professional to make sure you're comfortable and you understand, and of course your house is protected.
Exactly. And you say it all the time. You want to provide that concierge service for your clients, and I know you guys do that. And folks, when you're thinking about insurance and you just call one particular brand, obviously they're pushing their brand, and they're going to try to fit you into their brand's box somehow, some way. Even if it's if you're a square peg and they got that round hole, they're going to try to fit you in there. Whereas if you call JC and Patty, they can shop all the way around. They can find you where you fit, the best scenario for you to get you the best rates, the best situation, the best policies, and get you taken care of.
Thanks for that, Mike. Also, just last little point on the replacement cost. Your personal property and your belongings, people don't ever know that value. It's hard to keep up, especially if you have a big family and toys and kitchen supplies and, school clothes, everything like that. Typically, the personal property is a percentage of the home value. So at a $200,000 home value, you're going to get around $100,000 of personal property, or 50%. Now, if you wanted to save a little on that, or if you had, less stuff, that's one that you can adjust a little bit, or you can go higher on that. But again, that's something the personal property, you can move around a little more depending on each, typical family and household.
Exactly. And one great thing that everybody ought to probably do is something that I do. Obviously keep all your receipts, like JC says, keep records for everything, but taking pictures on a regular basis of all your assets on the interior of your house is actually a great idea to have visual proof of the asset. Let's say you did lose a receipt or something of that nature, you couldn't find it. Take visual proof through pictures of all your assets on the interior of your home. So should something come up, then you've got additional proof there of the condition and quality of what it is. And then, of course, if it's something major like artwork, jewelry, etc., as we've discussed in other shows, that's going to be scheduled property, and you want to, of course, get with JC and Patty on that as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, so just use us to your advantage, just to check on your current level, or if you wanted new quotes or whatnot, but we can really, test the market for you and make sure you have the appropriate values there.
Okay. Well, good stuff, JC, as always, every week. Thank you, JC Harder. That's JC Harder of the Goosehead Insurance Agency. Website, jcharderagency.com, jcharderagency.com. Phone number where they're always standing by for all your insurance needs, 214-643-6108, 214-643-6108. And JC just gave us the lowdown on replacement cost and all that good stuff. Thank you, JC. Folks, it's Inside Real Estate with Mike Kruizinga. We will be back in a few seconds, and then we're going to head on into Mortgage Talk.
Millennium Title Carroll PC Real Estate is a unique multi-service real estate title, law, and real estate investment firm that handles over 150 commercial and residential closings each month. Their real estate, legal, and tax services range from purchases to refinances to short sales and reverse mortgages. They can handle all of your real estate, legal, and tax planning needs. Their experience offers clients and investors a comprehensive perspective in managing their real estate, law, and investment needs. Visit txtitleattorney.com, that's txtitleattorney.com, or call 817-310-0136.
With decades of experience, the Rocky Martin Supreme Lending Team will work to close your home loan in 30 days or less. With access to the most competitive interest rates, the most financing options, and the most access to down payment assistance programs, the Rocky Martin Team won't be beating service to you for all your mortgage needs, including purchase and refinance. Trust RockyMartin.com and his team for their reliable and fast loan process. Go to RockyMartin.com or call 972-772-1866 today.
For housing lender, NMLS ID number 211731, 6730 Horizon Road, Suite B, Heath, Texas 75032.
Millennium Title Carroll PC Real Estate is a unique multi-service real estate title, law, and real estate investment firm that handles over 150 commercial and residential closings each month. Their real estate, legal, and tax services range from purchases to refinances to short sales and reverse mortgages. They can handle all of your real estate, legal, and tax planning needs. Their experience offers clients and investors a comprehensive perspective in managing their real estate, law, and investment needs. Visit txtitleattorney.com, that's txtitleattorney.com, or call 817-310-0136.
Now back to Inside Real Estate. Here's Mike the Realtor.
Hey folks, Mike Kruizinga here. It's Inside Real Estate. We are back. Just had JC Harder here in the studio. We were talking some great insurance information as we always do. So we're going to head into the bottom half of the hour. I got a couple things to run by you real quick, and then we're going to be getting over to Brooke Owen shortly here in just a little while. First time for Brooke to be in the studio, so we're looking forward to getting her on here from Millennium Title, and we'll get to that in a second. And then afterwards, we're going to get on into mortgage talk with Rocky Martin, and super excited to have the big dog himself here in studio. Rocky's in studio, so excited to talk to him. He's always got so many great stories, and I can't wait to hear what he's got today. Earlier I talked about how to prepare your home for listing, and a lot of folks out there, they bring out a few different agents to talk to, and that's always a great idea. I always say bring a couple out and then bring me at the end, and then I'll just go ahead and get it listed for you after you see the other slackers before I come in. But one I lost. I like to talk about wins, but I lost one recently. And it was a house, great house. It's going to be around 300 listing. They had pink carpet, and we just don't have a lot of buyers that really want a house with pink carpet. I'm going to be honest. And so when I come out to see your house, I'm going to be 100% honest with you about everything. And not to be insulting about your pink carpet if you love pink carpet, but if you have pink carpet, I'll be honest. There just aren't a lot of buyers that want it. So we need to talk about it and address it. And so the big sticking point was they just wanted a 90-day listing. Yeah, it's a hot market out there, but I'm not going to take a 90-day listing on pink carpet. I'm just not going to do it. And there were some other issues that need to be addressed with the house as well. And so folks, when I come out there, I'm not going to blow hot air. I'm going to just be very upfront with you and very honest with you, and hopefully you can appreciate that. And so in 90 days, they're going to call me back, and they're going to want to get with my carpet vendor so they can get new carpet in there and do that 45 days, and then we'll get them sold, I bet, is what's going to happen. And something else I wanted to mention, too, is a lot of agents will come out there and they will do what is called they buy your listing. And what I mean by that is they will see what other agents have valued your home at, and then they'll come in $20,000 to $30,000 above that and say, oh, yeah, well, we can get you way more money. And then what they do is over the next couple weeks, each 2 weeks, they're going to reduce your sales price down to where the honest agents who actually talked to you previously already recommended you be, and wasting your time, wasting other agents' time, wasting other buyers' time by having you on the market way too high. Most important time when you get your house on the market is the first several weeks, And if you're priced way too high, that's going to be killing you. So beware of that. That's happening all the time. Beware of those agents that tell you, oh, yeah, you're going to be $20,000, $30,000 above what other agents told you. Always get multiple opinions. I believe in that. But just a couple things to think about out there for you guys. And if you got that pink or red carpet, come on. I've sold pink and red carpet before, but it does take a while, I'll be honest. So, all right. Well, let's move on to Title Talk. Our preferred vendor, exclusive vendor is Nancy Carroll of Carroll PC Real Estate. She handles all of our real estate attorney work, and Millennium Title. They handle all of our closing services. The website, txtitleattorney.com, txtitleattorney.com. Phone number at their offices is 817-310-0136, 817-310-0136. And would like to welcome Brooke Owen, the marketing rep for Millennium Title, on air. So come on in, Brooke. Welcome.
Good morning, Mike. Thanks for having me. One thing I wanted to say real quick is that we did just launch our new website at Millennium Title. So millenniumtitle.com. People can go there, find more information about Millennium Title, way to contact us. We can give estimates, things like that. So we're excited about that.
Great. Very good. Yes, millenniumtitle.com.
Correct.
All right, millenniumtitle.com. Good stuff. So I think, Brooke, we're going to be talking about some new changes in the industry, and you guys are kind of the experts on some of this. So what do we got?
Well, one thing we're trying to educate people about right now is the new TRID, which the average consumer, I think, thinks probably, what is TRID and why should I care about it at all? TRID stands for the new TILA-RESPA Integrated Disclosures. The CFPB is putting that in place on October 3rd, supposedly. I've heard rumors that it might get delayed again, but we'll see.
Why are they doing that on my birthday?
Is it your birthday?
Yeah, 10/3 is my birthday. I'm upset about this.
One thing that's not going to change is, and mostly this just affects buyers and the way that they're going to deal with the lender in the transaction. One thing that's not going to change is the pre-approvals and pre-qualifications. I think you would agree that's important. The more time a buyer can spend investing time in finding out what type of mortgage they qualify for, how much of a mortgage they can qualify for in different types of loans, the better off they're going to be.
Yeah, absolutely. No doubt about it. And that's why Rocky Martin will be taking care of all that for us.
Yes. What is going to change, and I think this is a good thing for buyers, and I think that they will, I think it'll definitely help. Currently, comparing different mortgage companies is cumbersome because a lot of them require different things.
Sure.
Some of them require extensive written documentation. Once this rule takes place, once a buyer submits an application, a lender has 3 days to get them what's called a loan estimate, which is basically taking the place of the current good faith estimate and the initial truth in lending.
Okay.
They're putting those together, integrating them, and it's a new form. The lender has to get that to the buyer 3 days after the buyer submits an application. And so now an application, like I said, some lenders require a bunch of different stuff for an application. The CFPB says now only 6 things are required. Once a buyer submits their name, their income, social security number, property address, sales price, and the desired mortgage amount, they are considered to have applied with the lender, and then they should get a loan estimate within 3 days. That way they could compare different lenders much more easily, I think, at that point.
Okay, I got you. So I think the thought process behind this was obviously to make it a little bit more easier for people to shop and compare versus kind of how it's been. However, lending's very difficult. It's risk-based, and every lender's got to every broker's got to figure out what's best for them and assess each buyer's risk level. But in theory, the thought process behind this is to maybe help buyers, at least this portion of it, shop around a little bit better. Is that right?
Yes, I think so. And let's see.
Yeah, and I know for buyers out there, it is tough. It's there's so many things to think about. You just want to think about, okay, well, let me take 3 lenders and, okay, what's your interest rate? What's your interest rate? ABC, what are your interest rates? And you can't compare like that. It's not necessarily apples to apples. And everything is risk-based. And, we're going to get Rocky, and Rocky will come in and talk more about this here in a little bit. But everybody's situation is different. It's what is your credit score? Have you had any delinquencies recently? Have you had a foreclosure in your past? Have you had a bankruptcy in your past? Have you had a car repossession in your past? Or are you just an excellent candidate? Are you married? Are you not? Do one of you have school loans, which can throw off your debt to income ratios? So, yes, it's great that we're trying to come up with a process that's going to better help folks to shop around to a degree. But at the same time, it is still going to be complicated in that your situation is very unique, and we've got to have the very best evaluate it. And I know over at Supreme Lending Rockwall, the Rocky Martin team, they have got these scenario builders where they can build out your scenario and figure out what's best for you, and that's why we work with the best. So, Brooke, tell me what other changes are going to be coming up as part of this?
Well, one thing I think that is going to be really important is for buyers to make sure they have an informed, knowledgeable realtor. I think you would agree.
Yes, great idea.
And also lenders too are going to be wanting to work with realtors that know what's coming up and what they're going to need in order to get this loan estimate out to the buyers.
Sure.
Because lenders can't charge any fees until the buyer accepts, basically says that they want to proceed. But there's a lot of things now that we find out later on in a transaction. We don't know if there's a survey. We don't know if the survey is going to be accepted. We don't know who's paying for the survey. Anything that the buyer is going to be paying for, whether it's a survey, anything else, the lender's going to need to know that before they issue the loan estimate. So the more informed the realtor can be, the more prepared, that's going to make the transaction go a lot smoother.
Exactly. And folks, you forget about how much we do quarterback as a real estate agent. We really are the QB that kind of runs the offense.
Absolutely.
To a degree, and there's so many things going on behind the scenes that we don't tell you about because, to you it may be minutia as the buyer, but or the seller, but there's so many things that we deal with the title company, with the lender, and everybody to work on your behalf and to get things done. And and there's over 15,000 real estate agents in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, folks, and honestly, a lot of them are very much part-time. There's very few that do it full-time. And the ones that do it full time are the ones that are up to speed on all the changes, like that are coming up here on my birthday, and stay with it in the industry. And so those that are kind of part time, they don't always do that. And we talked about those agents that are out there that are still using fax machines, like the ones they use down in the White House bunker, and that are on some of that old antiquated technology. And so yeah, working with a great agent who's up to speed is huge for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lender as well. I think people are going to find that the more boutique style lenders are going to be able to offer them a lot better service. Not that that's a lot different than it is right now, but they're definitely going to want to make sure they're working with people that are knowledgeable about all of these changes for sure.
Okay, and so we've only got about a minute and a half or so left. Is there any other big changes we can hit quickly on this?
There are. I mean, there's the closing disclosures taking the place basically of the settlement statement now. I can talk more about that in detail maybe next week.
Okay.
I don't want to get too much into it right now. Basically, I think just being prepared. The more that can be done ahead of time, the better at this point, because the timelines are going to be so strict and everything is going to be so important that they're going to need to be prepared. So like I said, getting as much information about what type of financing you can qualify for, having as much information about what the buyer's going to be paying for. I think this is putting a lot of it's going to be on the buyer's agent for the most part. It doesn't affect the seller really very much at all, but it definitely affects the buyer's agent and needing to be informed about as much information as they can get the lender, the better.
Absolutely. So basically just some more checks and balances for us to make sure that we're all doing our job like we ought to be doing anyway. And so, yeah, that's good stuff. And there's a lot of regulations that are going to be part of these changes. And so Brooke can be back in. We can probably talk about this stuff for days. We barely scratched the surface a little bit with these changes. So we'll get into that more next week and the coming weeks. Folks, it's been Brooke Owen of Millennium Title. Their websites are millenniumtitle.com and txtitleattorney.com. Phone number 817-310-0136. Folks, we're going to head into the break, and then we're going to come on back with Rocky Martin for Supreme Lending Rockwall. We're going to get into mortgage. Folks, it's Inside Real Estate with Mike Kruizinga. Be right back in a few. With decades of experience, the Rocky Martin Supreme Lending Team will work to close your home loan in 30 days or less. With access to the most competitive interest rates, the most financing options, and the most access to down payment assistance programs, the Rocky Martin Team won't be beating service to you for all your mortgage needs, including purchase and refinance. Trust RockyMartin.com and his team for their reliable and fast loan process. Go to RockyMartin.com or call 972-772-1866 today.
For housing lender, NMLS ID number 211731, 6730 Horizon Road, Suite B, Heath, Texas 75032.
Now back to Inside Real Estate. Here's Mike the Realtor.
Hey folks, Mike Kruizinga here. We're back with Inside Real Estate. That was the Title Talk segment with Brooke Owen, and it was great to have her in studio. And we're going to have them back in more often to talk all kinds of good stuff from the perspective of our title company that handles so many things behind the scenes for us in a real estate transaction. And all right, so we've got a lot to talk about in mortgage talk. We've got Rocky Martin here of RockyMartin.com, and that's Rocky with an IE, RockyMartin.com. Phone number at Supreme Lending Rockwall, where they are always standing by for all your mortgage and refinance needs, 866-607-5667. Rocky, welcome back to the show.
Good morning, Mike. Glad to be here this morning, Sunday morning. Happy Sunday to everybody. And let's talk real estate. I want to open up why I love my job. I've been doing this for 25 years. And, you know, we always have a story. And last week I had a story. I had a customer of mine that was a veteran, which we thank them so much for their service. They had sold a house and were living in a hotel. And they reached out to me to get pre-qualified to purchase a home. And so we started talking, and he's like, yeah, we sold our house. We're living in a hotel. We need to get pre-approved so we can look at purchasing a home. So we began the process. When we first got started, unfortunately, the credit scores were, in the low 500 range, and that's not going to get you a mortgage today.
Sure.
Good news, 2.5 months later, we closed last week on a home. They were so excited. And to me, that's what makes me get up every day and enjoy my job. It is tough sometimes. It's stressful. It's crazy. It's busy. But at the end of the day, it's customers like we closed last week that makes our job well worth it. One thing to point out for veterans out there, depending on your disability status with VA, you may actually be exempt with property taxes. My customer last week met the qualifications, and there's actually a new law in place that states that for the veterans with the disability, that actually they're exempt from property taxes the day that they take ownership in the property. So we were not only able to close almost 3 weeks early for my customer, but actually we didn't even have to set up property taxes at closing for them. Didn't have to qualify them using the property taxes. They were exempt. And it's a great opportunity to purchase a home and have a very low payment.
Well, and that's huge right there, because generally on the property tax exemptions, you got to wait until the following year to get
right.
credit. And so if you just heard what Rocky said, that's day one of ownership for disability on VA. That's
right. Typically, you have to occupy your property as of January 1st, and then you can come in and file your homestead exemptions and whatnot. But if you're a serviceman and you meet the qualifications, it takes working with a lender that knows how to work this through, because most companies will not push for this, because most companies do not offer this, where we don't have to collect for the property taxes at closing. Supreme Lending does. And, it's a great deal, because again, it's better to start off from day one with the taxes and escrows all correct in your account versus having to collect for the escrows, wait till after January 1st, file your exemptions. It takes a year and a half before the dust settles, and the numbers kind of all work out.
Exactly.
So with a lot of the discussion today about getting your home ready to list, be an informed buyer, do your due diligence, kind of go through things. One of the things that I'd like to talk about kind of ties in with my story from last week, and it's really kind of preparing yourself to get started on a mortgage to purchase a home. And if you're currently in an apartment right now and you have 6 months before your lease comes due, you need to pull your credit now. If you're in a position where you're finishing up at school, you're getting ready to get started in your career, the next step's buying a home, you need to position yourself where you're going to be in a position that, hey, you can get a loan. And so I want to touch base on a few things, kind of the do's and the don'ts and that sort of thing. So hopefully our listeners out there can take some of these things and maybe will help them in the future for what they want to do. The first thing I tell everyone, pull your credit report. You really need to pull your credit report at least every 6 months. If you don't pull it every 3 months, make sure there's no stolen identity things on there or anything else. But you need to know where your credit is anymore. I mean, credit scores are very, very important in a lot of aspects in life, not just getting a home mortgage. And so you need to know what's on your credit. If you have no credit, like me, I grew up, my grandfather told me, son, if you can't afford to purchase it with money you got in your back pocket, you don't need it. Well, actually, in today's society, you need to have credit. And so if you don't have credit, get credit. Go get a gas card. Go get a secured credit card. I would recommend having a minimum of 3 to possibly 4 accounts that actually report on your credit report. Length of time is important, but not necessarily as important as the actual credit score. So first and foremost, I would say if you don't have credit, go get credit. If you have had credit and it's not the best of credit, you need to make sure that you don't have any late payments. You still may need to get a couple secured credit cards that'll help get the credit score in the right direction. Next thing, if you know you're buying a home in the next 6 months or the next 3 months, don't go buy a new car. Don't go buy a new boat.
Thank you.
Any new debt that hits your credit report is actually going to bring your credit score down. And so if you know that you're 90 days left on your lease and you drive by the dealership and you see that pretty Mercedes sitting out there, take a picture of it and say, you'll be mine in a few months, but I got to buy a home first.
That's right.
And so it can really be a detriment to your credit score and possibly your debt ratio. All right, job history. As a rule of thumb in the mortgage lending world, we're really looking at a 24-month history on work. So in other words, you really need to have had a job for 24 months consistently, not a lot of job gaps. If the job gaps were because you took maternity leave, because you had a baby, things of that nature, you can work through those type of things. If you've been on a job for 6 months and you decided to take 6 months off and tour the United States, and that may be a totally different story, but as a rule of thumb, you need to have about 24-month history of working. Income. Income is kind of a tricky deal. The things kind of to remember, if you're a self-employed borrower, you're a car salesman at the dealership, you get a lot of bonus, you work a lot of overtime, you have a part-time job. A good rule of thumb is you need to have a 24-month history. 24-month history of getting the income the way that you get it. And from the lending side of things, we've got to be able to take a 24-month average to be able to calculate your income to know what you're going to qualify for. And so really at the end of the day, if greater than 25% of your overall monthly income comes from bonuses, commissions, part-time, overtime type scenario, you've got to have that 24-month history. Being self-employed, You got to have you really need to have 2 years of filed tax returns. In some cases, we can work with 1 year, but as a rule of thumb, you need to have a 2-year filed tax returns, so mortgage institutions can calculate what income that you actually make. And so these are all very important things. As a rule of thumb, you need to be able to sit down with a calculator, figure up your budget on what you can afford because you know your income. Take your monthly debts like credit cards, car payments, write it down on a sheet of paper for what your minimum payments are, your car payments, and total that number up, and then go and look and see what type of payment do you think you can afford. Take that payment plus your minimum monthly debts, car payments, total that number up, and divide it into your gross monthly income, and that'll let you know what your debt ratio is. Debt ratio really doesn't need to exceed 40%. If it exceeds 40%, then it may make getting the loan approval a little bit more difficult. Plus, it tells you at the end of the day, after the mortgage payment, you need some money to be able to actually buy groceries, put gas in the car, clothes for the kiddos. And so it's really a good thing to look at, even if you're, say, not buying a home, but to be able to base your budget on a monthly basis. And so many people really, and it's kind of by nature, we don't pull our credit until we're ready to do something. You know, all of a sudden, I just saw that boat parked outside and I want to buy it. Well, I'm ready to pull my credit report. You know, you have to plan ahead when it comes to purchasing a home because there are a lot of things that go into it. And so, you know, it's the biggest purchase that most people will ever do in their lifetime. And you want to put yourself in a position that there's no issues with getting the loan. And then you can negotiate with lenders and get the lowest interest rate and the lowest fees. And so, you know, it's always better to plan ahead. And really, the mortgage guy, the mortgage company, we're really the first phone call that you need to make when you start this whole entire process. You actually need to reach out to the mortgage company, get pre-approved, take a look at everything, and then the next step will be contacting Mike and letting him know, you know, what you're looking for so you can get out and start trying to find you a home.
Exactly. And you made so many, you know, great points right there. One thing I kind of wanted to go back to, and I wanted to get your perspective on this latest and greatest, because we have so many self-employed folks that are buyers that are maybe they've been out of the market for a while, but they're back in the market. You know, maybe they're a plumber, they've got trucks, they have assets, maybe they're an electrician, some sort of tradesman, but running their small company, being self-employed, they often show a loss on their tax returns. And so where are we with that now as far as stated income for those guys? Where are we now as far as working around those losses on tax returns, you know, with the way the laws are right now?
Well, very important. You know, in the olden days, we had stated income type loans, non-income verification, those type of things. To be quite honest with you, Mike, that whole segment of borrowers really in today's world is kind of left out.
Yeah.
There's really not a product for them. Now, certain banks will do a portfolio loan that they may actually do something like a stated income loan. But for the most part in the mortgage industry, we have to follow this term of qualified mortgage. It's part of this Dodd-Frank bill. And when you start seeing it in your licensing, when you're getting your license to do what we do, and you see it in certain bills that talks about borrowers not having the income to qualify, and you originate that loan for them, at the end of the day, you could be responsible for that. I'm not sure if we're ever going to see those programs creep back into the market, and it's really made it hard for our self-employed borrowers. And quite honestly, a lot of our self-employed borrowers are probably going to have to really relook at how they do their tax returns with their CPA. And there's things that they can do that would still help them on their property taxes. Is how they file their deductions. Mm-hmm. If they'll look on their Schedule C, perhaps maybe there's a way they can move more of their deductions into the depreciation. Again, it's a CPA question.
Right.
But from the lending standpoint, we can add depreciation back in as income to help them qualify. But just at the end of the day, if their tax returns are showing a loss, then they're really going to have a hard time getting a loan today.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate because we have a lot of these buyers that are ready to be purchasing real estate, but unfortunately, due to the crash and everything that occurred, they are kind of on the sidelines, like you said. And so, but that's a great point right there that you just talked about with depreciation. So, getting with a CPA, maybe adjusting how you look at things, how you set things up, how you're structured, your self-employed business is structured, and then getting to that point so that you can be a homeowner again. And of course, he also talked about, running your budget, etc. What type of mortgage payment are you comfortable with? And then what does that equal as far as a mortgage and a sales price? And, just because you qualify for a higher amount doesn't mean maybe you want that. Maybe you're qualified for $300,000, but maybe you prefer a $2,200 mortgage payment, and so that's less than that. Well, folks, a lot of great stuff, as always, from Rocky Martin. Website is rockymartin.com. rockymartin.com. That's Rocky with an IE. And phone number at their office where they are always standing by for all your refinance and mortgage needs, 866-607-5667. That segment just exemplifies the fact that I say every week we work with the best, and Rocky really is the best. And if you listen to him, and he talks about his stories, talking about, his family said, if you can't afford to buy it, you ain't got the money in your pocket, don't do it. I mean, Rocky is a regular guy, and how he translates that into today's world where we have to have credit, and we do. And, I really connect with Rocky in that way because my family was the same way as well, but today's world, you got to have credit. And, Rocky is just a great guy. So is JC and all of our team members. And, we want you to connect with them as part of our network. You can always do that at InsideRealEstateRadio.com, InsideRealEstateRadio.com. Folks, it's been Inside Real Estate with Mike Kruizinga. We'll see you next week, 8 a.m. Sundays. Have a great week. Neither the hosts nor the guests or contributors of the show Inside Real Estate with Mike Kruizinga are attorneys, CPAs, tax advisors, or investment advisors, and are not providing legal advice during the course of the show. If you need professional legal advice or services in any of those categories, please seek the appropriate professional. The host is a licensed real estate agent in Texas with a Chris Arnold 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 agent in Texas with a